Hello everyone! Today I interviewed GLITZ7 in the year 2026. But before I start this video, I would love to thank the bestest bun and no for supporting my channel. If you played Woozworld in the early 2010s, chances are you have heard of GLITZ7. And some people might say she was one of, or the, most famous person in Woozworld history. But if you did not play back then, you probably don't know who she is, and you might be wondering, why do people still remember this person? It's been over 10 years. Well, before I start this interview, I'm going to kind of go over who GLITZ7 is, for those of you that may not know. In the early 2010s, GLITZ7 was one of Woozworld's most recognizable and known players. GLITZ7 was frequently seen at popular units, events, and hanging around other famous players. Her woozn has always been really recognizable with her blonde hair and her popular red color code, as well as her dead mouse. She was one of those players everybody knew, even if they had never met her or even seen her in-game. People usually knew her through Woozworld blogs, which used to be a thing, Woozworld YouTube videos, and just conversations in-game. So why was she famous? Why did everybody in the game know who GLITZ7 was? Now, don't forget, this was the early 2010s, so the Woozworld community was so much bigger than it is today. It had a lot more players, and also, a lot of the players were really young. The game had a very much younger demographic. So, famous back then versus today is completely different. Like I mentioned earlier, Glitz was known for always being at events, hanging around other famous people, etc. But the main thing she was known for was drama. So much drama. Drama with other players of Woozworld and drama with other famous people in Woozworld. GLITZ7 was Woozworld famous, but she was not liked. She was known for bullying people, being a drama queen in public units. There were a lot of rumors as well, I'm pretty sure. Also, going back to her going to a lot of events, that was very true. GLITZ7 was at literally like almost every single big Woozworld event or game hosted by Woozworld staff, and I think she had most, if not all, of the Wooz band friended, and she also was known for winning a lot of contests. Now that you know who she is from the past, let's talk about current GLITZ7. Even though it's been well over a decade since then, GLITZ7 still plays Woozworld, as well as most of you probably do as well, and myself. In Woozworld's current day, she is not known like she used to be. Obviously, older players definitely still remember her, but most of the newer players have absolutely no clue who she is. I mean, I remember back in the day, if she was spotted in a unit, people would be like, oh my god, it's Glitz! But now, I feel like she just goes in a unit and no one really says anything because people don't really know who she is. And I don't mean everybody, again, there's definitely still people that recognize her. And since that is the case, it has been a lot easier to be able to speak with her for the past few years, since she's probably not getting swarmed as much and getting spammed with so many messages. I've had her friended on my account for the past few years, and I've even talked to her a couple times. I never talked to her back then, but talking to her now, she's actually very sweet and very nice. But then again, it has been over a decade, so we're adults now, we're pretty mature. Again, I never really spoke to her back in the day, so I don't know if she was rude. I remember I did have one interaction with her in like 2014. I had messaged her saying hi, and she responded back saying hi, and I was freaking out, and I made a whole YouTube video about it, like on a really old channel. I was like, oh my gosh, GLITZ7 messaged me, guys, oh my god. So to think that's how it was over 10 years ago, and how it is now, how I can just like casually talk to her, is just insane to me. Anyways, so I was actually able to get her to do an interview with me for you guys. Now, there's been one other time I did an interview, which was when I interviewed a Wooz guide. I will link that below if you guys want to watch. I was actually able to call him and record the call. However, due to me and Glitz's very big time difference, it's very hard for us to actually, you know, be on at the same time and all of that. So I just sent her some questions and had her send me her responses back whenever she was able to. So for this interview, that's how I'm going to be doing it. The first set of questions I asked her were kind of just about herself in general. I asked her, how did you come up with your username and how did you find Woozworld? She said, I came up with my username GLITZ7 as 7 is my favorite number and I liked the sound of it. I saw a pop-up ad on the internet and it attracted me to try Woozworld. What do you think made you stand out so much in Woozworld, and what were some of your favorite memories back in the day? I think my red color fashions made me stand out, and I also went to lots of Woozworld events. My favorite Woozworld memory was Latin Lovers game shows and when I won Star of the Week in 2012. How did you originally become famous on Woozworld, and what was that like for you? I became famous helping Laddie and Timo host their game shows, winning Star of the Week, and I had a Woozworld shop that sold rare items. A typical day on Woozworld being well known was replying to hundreds of messages I used to get, and sometimes creating units. Being famous, lots of people asked me to take photos or come to their events. It was like being a Woozworld celebrity. When did you first kind of realize that you were becoming well known in Woozworld? Sadly, lots of YouTube videos were made of me that were not very nice, and I was called a bully for standing up for myself when I was mercilessly teased and harassed in Woozworld quests and at Woozworld events. What are some things you miss from that era? I miss the old Woozworld friends in the Wooz band and their fun events. There was something on every day in old Woozworld. Do you still get recognized in the more recent years? Some people in Woozworld still remember me, and I'm genuinely touched when they chat and remember the fun times. What do you think of current Woozworld? I hope Woozworld brings back Maya's fashion shows, and on a positive note, I thank Woozworld staff for updating the game with many new features such as swimming, actions, poses, and lots more. For the interview itself, unfortunately, that is all I have. Again, it's really hard to make it, good and long with our schedule differences and our giant time gap, because she lives, halfway across the world from me. However, I do still want to talk about it a little bit more. Years and years ago, I kind of had a similar experience. I used to be really known on Woozworld. I used to get so many messages, so many private chats all the time. And I had haters, of course. I was also in my little dramas back then. But I just can't imagine being that age again and that happening, but to that extent. Her version of it was much more intense. And I just can't imagine that. Imagine being that age, a kid or a young teenager, logging on to your favorite game every day and having that horrible experience, having people just harass you, not being able to genuinely play the game because you're getting swarmed all the time and having hate videos made about you every day. I don't know, I feel like that would just ruin the Woozworld experience for me. Being that known. And again, don't forget, like I said earlier, the community on Woozworld back then was much more different than it is today. There was a lot more players on the game and everything. I feel like I would just get overwhelmed if that happened to me. But every single time I've talked to Glitz throughout the past few years that I've had her added, she has always been so incredibly kind. I've never seen her be rude or anything to me or anyone in the past few years since she's been active. Because I have seen her out in public units a few times as well, and yeah, I never see any issues. But I'm sure she's relieved to be able to play the game and everything. I'm sure it's such a relief for that stuff to not happen anymore. And I bet it's kind of fun to look back on. Sitting there looking back at your legend days, your little iconic days when you were famous. I kind of do that sometimes, and I wasn't even as Woozworld popular as she was. I'll think back to 2018 to 2020, 2021, I'd be like, wow, that was such a fun time. Even though there are obviously some downs to it. It's just kind of nostalgic. But yeah, let me know if you remember GLITZ7, and if you do, what did you think about her? Did you have any memories with her? Did you have any interactions? Do you remember anything you want to bring up? And how do you feel about her now? And even if this is your first time learning about her and who she is, still let me know. What do you think about her? What do you think it would have been like? But that is all I have for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I sure did. This video was so fun. Yeah, have a lovely day or night. Bye-bye.